Overall, this Mustang Dark Horse is the most surprising car I've driven all year. Let's talk about why that is, how it's better than I expected, and most significantly, how it's worse than I expected it to be. I mean, it's checked all the boxes, right? It's still got a V8, even in 2024. This car has 100 horsepower per liter, which is an impressive metric no matter what the engine size. Now it's got these epic dual intakes, dual throttle bodies. Got this sweet Dark Horse triangulated brace here so that you've got all the suspension bracing you could possibly need in the world. The front end is modern and aggressive. It looks fantastic, and you've even got functional hood vents. This thing is ready to do some actual track duty. 255s up front and 275s in the rear. Massive Brembo brakes all the way around. And look at those things, they're huge. Here's a standard Ford key for scale. I can't even get the whole thing in the shot, it's so big. That's what she said. This car has floor mats and an automatic. That's about the only options it's got. $62,000. The rear spoiler is aggressive enough to actually do some work in terms of downforce provided. It looks good. It doesn't look like boy racer spec goofball. And check out that back end. I think that might be the best angle of the whole car. Got real presence back here because you've got the Dark Horse badges. It doesn't even say Mustang on the car. It just has a dark, evil looking horse head on it. The black spoiler, the black taillights. You've even got blacked out exhaust tips down here. Everything just looks tough and intentional. Inside the car is a nice place to sit for sure. You've got a brand new snazzy steering wheel with all the buttons on it. You've got a huge mono screen that goes across the whole car from the driver's side all the way to the middle of the car, almost touching the passenger side. You can have auxiliary gauges, you can have all this data. The seats have beautiful blue contrast stitching on them that matches the exterior paintwork in this particular car. Looks really nice. They're very comfortable, they're supportive enough. As is with any Mustang, there's basically no room for humans in the back, but that's to be expected. But there are seats back there, so you can put your stuff. Like I've got camera gear back there. Let's put it in manual mode now and see how well these shifters respond to my commands. There is a bit of a lag. Transmission just isn't as responsive and aggression inspiring as something like the PDK, because there is that lag between my desire and then the actual gear change. Ready? Change? Change? It's like when you think about the gear change happening, it probably happens about as fast as you could do with a manual, but when you're in an automatic and you've got paddles to pull on, and I want it to be done changing the gear by the time I release the paddle. That's how fast I really want it to be ideally. Oh yes. Yeah, that sounds amazing. Yeah. Yeah, it's awesome, man. I was shocked they let me drive it. I'm just test driving, I'm making a video. Yeah. The sensation I get in driving this is that it's definitely sure-footed. It's got a lot of power, but it also feels big. You feel the heft and the weight of the car, because whenever you're changing directions, it's not just super fingertip controls ready to do it at a moment's notice. There's a bit of lag between your input and the actual car changing directions. It doesn't feel like it's up on its tiptoes ready to change direction super quickly. It's a bit more of a hefty girl. A little bit of a twisty section of road here, so we put it into track mode. Oh, a little pop on the D-cell. That was nice. Wow. The acceleration is no joke. Tires are still cold, so I'm not going to set any lap records today. Be reasonable here. But wow. You get the feeling that the baseline of the car's intent was really set up for straight line speed, because it's just so fast in a straight line. Getting nothing through the steering wheel. That is odd. Getting all these sensory inputs otherwise. I feel like I generally know what the car is doing. I can feel the back end move a little bit under heavy acceleration because I don't have 100% traction. I have 96% traction. But it's like I'm totally insulated from the steering wheel. There's some other setting that I need to put this thing in. Let's pull over and try and find all the settings we're supposed to have, because that just doesn't feel right. Let's go over the kind of settings that you can build with a Mustang Dark Horse. Our base drive mode can be normal, sport, track, drag, or slippery. How many profiles can we have? Wow, 6 different profiles. So in theory, you could build yourself a profile for each of those scenarios and whatever you want it to be. 1 could be normal, 2 could be sport, 3 could be drag, 4 could be track, something like that. So let's say the base drive mode is going to be sport. The adaptive dampers, we only have sport as an option. What if we go back into normal? Do we have another option here? Nope. In normal mode, we can have normal dampers. In sport, we can have sport dampers. What about in track? In track, we can only have track dampers. Not a whole lot of options here. So the damper setting is determined by the base drive mode setting, but it looks like the steering wheel may do a similar thing. In normal mode, we actually have options when it comes to steering. So you could choose sport or comfort, but in sport mode, you're forced to have sport plus steering. Likewise, in track, you can't choose the steering effort you want, you're stuck. You do have options in terms of traction control, so I like that. The exhaust can be in normal, sport, or track, so that's fun. Oh, or quiet, that's interesting. Instrument cluster can be sport, calm, or normal. We'll make it sport. Cool. I was in track mode before. I'll put it in sport now and see if the steering feels any different. I'm assuming it's not going to though. Wow, nice grippy grip. That does not feel like a Mustang. That feels so confident, so grippy. It just wants you to turn harder and harder and harder. Egging you on. Go. That's fine. I can take that. Turn harder, bro. That's absurd. Absurd. Right here, I can feel nothing in the steering. I'm getting nothing from the road. This is a brand new paved road surface, so it should be nice and smooth, but I still expect to feel something in my fingertips. I'm getting nothing. I'm getting weight. There's artificial resistance dialed in by the drive mode, but I'm not feeling anything in the car whatsoever. It's just so sad. It's so uninspiring. We're gonna do a 20 to 70 test in the Mustang once I turn around up here. 20 to 70 test, here we go, full throttle. That was fun. So the more I drive this car, the less I like this automatic transmission. I think it's largely the same as any other automatic GT, but it's just not confidence inspiring. It's a little too slow to respond whenever you ask it for something, and it's also inconsistent in how fast it does that. If it was the same level of a gap between my request and what actually was fulfilled, that could almost be okay because I think that you could acclimate to that. But when sometimes a shift happens really quickly and sometimes it happens slowly, well, that's not confidence inspiring. And sometimes the shifts are rifled off and it happens seamlessly, and other times there's a lurch whenever you shift. So we're in a tricky spot because where else do you find a 500 horsepower, naturally aspirated, American-made sports car that's really, really competent on track? Now that Chevy's not making the Camaro anymore, the only other option I think we have is a Corvette. Maybe your option then is like a C7 Grand Sport manual or maybe even automatic, because at least then you've got something that's got a track prowess that can compete with this car, or you can get a slightly used Camaro or something like that. But as far as a brand new vehicle available today for the money, there's really nothing I can think of that ticks the same boxes as this. I just wish this was better. I can deal with the weight and the heft of the car because, hey, it's a Mustang, it's a big V8. What else do you expect? It's not gonna weigh 3,100 pounds. To a degree, I think I could also kind of live with the automatic. Maybe you just don't feel like shifting your own gears anymore. You did that when you were younger. It's not the game you want to play anymore. Totally fine, you do your thing. No, this isn't the best automatic in the world, but it's miles better than they were 10 or 15 years ago. But I think potentially the nail in the coffin for me could be the reality that you just don't feel anything through the steering wheel. It's unbelievable. When Ford clearly has such good engineers that are able to put something together like this and give you this package that's so competent and so confidence inspiring as far as the chassis goes, the engine performance, all of that is top notch. It's better than I thought it would even be. How can they put that package together and yet at the same time completely overlook steering feel? It's almost like you imagine that they had different departments developing the vehicle. All right, engine, check. Transmission, it's all right. Bob did pretty well. Handling, your team did so well. Way to go, you guys get a bonus. What about steering? Well, we fired the steering engineers. That's fine. Just go ahead and put the car out anyway. We don't need to feel steering. You know what it feels like? It's like I've been on a bad first date. You meet somebody because you've been fixed up with a friend and they say, you're gonna absolutely love her. She's got the personality you like. She's beautiful. She's so much fun. You guys will get along so well because you've got the same kind of desires in life. It's gonna be fantastic. And so maybe you hear all of that and you think, you know what? I'll bet they're right. We are gonna love each other. And you let your expectations run a little wild because you go, wow, this objectively seems like it's gonna be so great, such a great match. And then you're partway through the first date and you think, when can I go home? When can I be done with this? You start thinking about the rest of your day and you've already moved on with your life mentally, but you're still on the date with the person. That's kind of how I feel about this car. The expectations were set so high. It has such potential to have such good qualities. Between the engine and the chassis and everything else just has to work. It just has to support those things because it's beautiful and it makes a wonderful sound. It's fast as hell. It handles better than any Mustang I've ever driven by far, and yet it falls short in such critical ways. I think my biggest issue with the Mustang Dark Horse is that you're paying for driver's car money, you're getting driver's car specs, you've got a fantastic suspension setup, super sticky tires, a wonderful engine that just revs to the moon, and yet it's totally uninspiring to drive. I'm ready to take this car back to the dealership now because I've been out here for 15 miles and I'm ready to be done with it. And I have to admit, this is not the video that I thought I was going to be making. I thought I would be praising the daylights out of this car. Who doesn't want a 500 horsepower V8 rear-wheel drive sports car that can actually handle itself on track? 15-inch brakes! This thing is ready to do some track duty. But the crazy thing is, I don't want to. If you took me to a track right now and you said I can either drive this Mustang Dark Horse or that new little Miata over there, I would take the Miata. I would shoehorn my 6'5" long legginess in there and probably have a better time because I would actually feel what's happening. I'd go 3 times slower in that car versus this one, but it'd be more fun. I'd also choose something like a Toyota 86 over this, a used Porsche Cayman. I mean, a plethora of vehicles over this for actual track duty. Even on something like a back road or a canyon road, this thing is so uninspiring that I just frankly can't be bothered to drive it anymore. If there was someone else here, I would hand them the keys and let them drive me back to the dealership. Oh, it's painful to say that. I'm depressed saying that because I don't want that to be the storyline that I leave with when it comes to this car, but that's genuinely how I feel. And all that on top of such a high sticker price. If this was somebody's home-built car and they bought a used Mustang for 25 grand and they did some work to it and it felt like this, I'd say, hey, you know what? At least you have great value for money because it's high performing, it's nice to look at, it's a great sound, what's not to love? But whenever you're paying $62,000 before tax, title, and license, I just don't think it's worth it.